since the script called for their angelic-induced dismay to occur in the left aisle and not under the pews, we were forced to redo the shepherd scene. With pastoral order thus restored, a group of tiny angels surrounded Gabriel and sang glory to God in the highest, while the shepherds ran pell-mell to Bethlehem to vicinity.